the slider of Garrett Hill was disgusting. Look, he struck out Nick Castellanos on his slider, and he's been throwing a spike curve. But Chris, do you remember this at all from when he was in the minors, or is that just a kind of a new word thing he was working on?
I don't remember a spike curve. The spike curves tend to be harder, like more in the mid 80s, kind of like an Alex Lang curve. And I remember Hill throwing more of the traditional sort of 70 mile an hour, mid 70s kind of, loopy curve. So the spike curve would be a fun development for sure.
Yeah, and he had that going around. He had that going around like 81, 82, according to the radar gun on there. And I I thought it looked pretty good. It was a pitch that, if again he only allowed the one walk and one hit, but again I thought Garrett Hill came out and he was hitting 96, 97 on the gun, which is a little more than he was last year, and so. But yeah, I thought his performance stood out. Another performance that stood out yesterday, that on the pitching side of things, of course, was what I said. We mentioned Engler, but on offensive side of things, Akil Baddoo, first hit of the spring for the Tigers, got a double to right, and that was, I think, 100. Was that John? Was it 110 off the bat?
102.
102 off the bat. Okay, I thought
Meadows hit the 110 mile an hour home run.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as Andy Baez swung on 3-0, got the green light from Hinch and got a single. And then probably the best moment of all day, Andre Lipsius, 2-run shot, and that was a feeling of satisfaction. Again, it's only spring, so it's with a grain of salt, but for somebody who's been on the Andre Lipsius bandwagon, captain train, all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, he'll pump 97 easily. So I know you guys. I don't know what are you guys' thoughts about yesterday's game.
Yeah. So for me, I think Engler was definitely the thing that stood out to me the most. Obviously, I wasn't there to watch the game. I kind of just have to take other people's thoughts for it. But 4 strikeouts in 2 innings, 7 swings and misses. That sounds really encouraging. I wish I was there to see it. And yeah, obviously Lipsius going deep, that was great. You can't take too much from this. As much as we want to and as excited as we are, we have to kind of realize this is going to be a process, and we're going to have to wait, have a sample size of a week or 2 weeks to how, we're really going to be able to see how these guys are going to be heading into the year. But for me, Engler was kind of my main takeaway, as well as Parker Meadows and Lipsius going deep. That was really good as well.
What about you, Chris?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Engler was my main takeaway too, because he's a guy who has to stick on the roster, and it's just kind of a fascinating process when you talk about the Rule 5, because for years and years it seemed like teams would just take like a hard throwing reliever and hope it worked, and then a couple years ago the Tigers took Akil Baddoo, which was who had barely played an A ball, and then this year they take Mason Engler, who had barely played in Double A. He reached Double A at the end of the year, and it's interesting because some players have skills that immediately translate no matter what level you're at. And with Baddoo, it was pitch recognition and ability to control the strike zone. It was advanced enough that he could kind of go through all the ups and downs as a big leaguer and not get too out of sorts, despite his lack of track record in the minors. And with Englert, it's pitchability. He's a guy with 4 or 5 distinct pitches, and he throws strikes with all of them. And so who cares if he only has 100 innings under his belt? Like, that's a guy you can find a spot for. And so the fact that he was getting those swings and misses was really encouraging, because, most of his stuff is just kind of average to solid average, 45 to 55 pitches on the, 20 to 80 scouting scale, I should say. And, but yeah, that he's able to mix them up and locate them is very encouraging for a guy that we think is probably going to be a long reliever, a middle reliever this year, but could eventually grow into a mid-rotation starter a year or two down the road. So that was a big takeaway. And like you said, seeing home runs from a couple of the younger prospects, not the top-tier guys, Lipsius and Meadows is creeping up that way, but that was big to see. And just, we got our guy Adam Wolf was out there throwing an inning. It's always fun to see some of the prospects who don't make any lists, but nevertheless have something to offer. It's nice to see them go out there and succeed in spring training. So that was fun.
Good to see see Austin Meadows back on a ball field. How that plays out this spring. and into the season means a lot. I mean, his career, I'm not going to say in jeopardy, but he needs to be on the field and get back to being productive. Put last year behind him in every way that he can. So that's step one, is to get back on a ball field and face pitching. So that was good to see him back out. Certainly Meadow, his brother Parker, hitting the home run. The way I kind of view him right now is we had this talk earlier this winter, and we said, who needs to have a Parker Meadows year, breakout year? And my answer to that, and still is Parker Meadows needs to have another Parker Meadows year, because we saw a lot of failure in him the first few years. And last year we saw a wonderful season of baseball. He really perked up, changed some things, was the ball player everybody was hoping to see. But again, that's just 1 year. Let's see it again. To get to the majors, he's going to have to do it again. So, poking one out in a big league game in spring training is a good start. And for Englert, that's a great first step to make the ball club. He's a Rule 5 guy. They're going to want him to succeed and be worth keeping or worth sending Texas something for to complete a trade. So nothing but a good first step. But certainly, he'll be the guy to watch now the next few times out and see if he can keep it going.